Are we at the end of the world? A secret letter written by Pope Benedict XVI has recently been made public, and it carries a disturbing warning concerning the Antichrist's impending appearance. Prepare to be astounded. The disclosure of Pope Benedict XVI's secret letter shook the Catholic Church and beyond. The letter has generated passionate debate and raised serious questions about the fate of humanity with its astounding warning of the approach of the Antichrist. In this video, we'll look at the letter's contents, its significance, and the Catholic Church's reaction. Welcome back to The Unknown Fact. Join us as we investigate this dramatic development and question whether the Antichrist's time has arrived. The shocking revelation that a secret letter written by Pope Benedict XVI and kept hidden until after his death has been made public. The severe warning concerning the end of the world that is included within this letter has struck the entire world by surprise due to the fact that it contains its contents. The letter, which was written by Benedict XVI in his final years, serves as a warning regarding the impending appearance of the Antichrist. This is what the Bible says about the Antichrist. 1 John 2:18, which reads, "Dear children, this is the last hour, and as you have heard that the Antichrist is coming, even now many Antichrists have come. This is how we know it is the last hour." Benedict XVI says that the time of the Antichrist has come and that we must be ready for the end of the world. Vladimir Palko, a mathematician and retired statesman who served as interior minister in one of Slovakia's post-communist governments, is a Slovakian member of the underground Catholic Church, had written a book called "The Lions Are Coming: Why Europe and America Are Heading for a New Tyranny?" The book is about how Western life and politics are becoming less and less Christian. A German version of the book has been made. After that, Pope Emeritus Benedict read the book and in 2015 sent a letter to Catholic statesman Vladimir Palko, calling on people to pray against the growing power of the Antichrist. Vlado spoke solemnly about the letter. He described it as brief and complimentary to the book. Finally, Pope Emeritus mentioned the Antichrist. Vlado was hesitant to say exactly what Benedict had said. He stated that the letter would not be released until Benedict died. Given the high regard in which Benedict XVI is held within the Catholic Church, his words of caution on the Antichrist carry a great deal of weight. As a past pope, he has a profound comprehension of the theological as well as the spiritual aspects of the Christian faith. The fact that he would say something of such indicates that the circumstances is quite precarious. We ought to take his warning seriously and conduct ourselves appropriately. The warning issued by Benedict XVI is a rallying cry for all believers to take action. We need to go deeper in our faith, pray with more intensity, and get ourselves ready for the end of the world. Yarrow, the editor of the conservative magazine Standard, did a short interview with Vlado in which he told Vlado what was in Benedict's letter. This interview was published in Standard. Here is a piece of the interview. Yarrow: when you reported the letter for the first time, you decided not to publish part of the text, noting that it was not the right time to do so. The reason was the sensitive content and concerns that the late Pope expressed about the state of the Catholic Church. Could you elaborate on what exactly it was? Palko: yes, it's like that. The letter is not long. It has 12 lines. In the second half of the letter there is a sentence about 3 lines long, in which Pope Emeritus makes some striking claims. The sentence reads as follows: "We see how the power of the Antichrist is expanding, and we can only pray that the Lord will give us strong shepherds who will defend his church in this hour of need from the power of evil." Yarrow: what did you think then, and what do you think about it today? Palko: concepts such as the expansion of the Antichrist's power, the church in its hour of need, and the need to defend the church from the power of evil are serious and weighty. All the more so because they were uttered by a person whose expression throughout his life accuracy was combined with the appropriateness of the terms used. He delivered serious public messages even as Pope, but these formulations are several degrees more urgent. The situation of the world and the Church troubled Pope Emeritus very much. He was suffering from it. I think about it very often, but I do not dare to interpret his statements. I would consider that presumptuous at this point. I'm just a Christian former politician, and I don't feel competent. As a politician, I adhered to the magisterium of the Catholic Church and did not back down in any fight. However, I rarely comment on the Church and only on details. To express some fundamental judgments about its state in general requires both a person who is a better example of Christian virtues and a more theologically sophisticated one. It's a job for saints. Yarrow. Benedict wrote about the Antichrist in his first book about Jesus of Nazareth. It was the part where he discussed the temptation of Christ by the devil in the desert, where the devil appeared as a theologian, in Ratzinger's words. The Pope also recalled Solovyov's famous Legend of the Antichrist, which is a short fictional prose where the Antichrist received a doctorate from the University of Tübingen. The funny thing is that Ratzinger himself once taught there. The Antichrist appears here as a great humanist. He fights against hunger. He is the author of the book The Open Path to Well-Being and Peace in the World. Benedict uses this only as an illustration that even interpretation of the scriptures can become a tool of the Antichrist. As a theological scholar, he criticized certain behaviors of scholars and theologians, and he reminded us that the Antichrist does not have to look hideous, that he does not have to be recognized as evil, but he can appear acceptable, benevolent, as a humanist, who, however, goes against God. What is the figure of the Antichrist for you? Palco. I note with a smile that politicians, even former ones, do not usually use this term, but when you insist, it could be someone with extraordinary influence who pretends to be more merciful than Christ. Yarrow. You decided not to publish the letter and wait. Even now, after the death of Benedict, you waited more days. Why such caution? Palco. It is just ordinary human caution and hesitancy. That time, 7 years ago, I wondered why he would write such unusual words to a person he did not even know. Now the question has returned. With the death of Benedict XVI, something is coming to an end, and I myself want to conclude some things. Yarrow. What did you take from that letter then, 7 years ago? Palco. In that year, 2015, I thought that I would certainly not be wrong if I take to heart the words of Pope Emeritus about the need for prayer. Since then, I regularly prayed for the Church on my way to work. Before praying, I always said in my mind that it is for the Pope Emeritus, and for all the pastors of the Church. Yarrow. After Benedict XVI resigned, it caused great astonishment and criticism. However, the former pope did not remain completely silent. He published several texts and books, and sometimes statements from private conversations or letters, such as yours, were published. Benedict, in short, was from seclusion, but still communicate with the world. Since you were part of it and at the same time you didn't talk about it, but you thought a lot about it, what do you think today? Why did the Pope step down, which he felt was more urgent than serving in the chair of Peter? And what did he try to convey to the believers from seclusion? Palco. Perhaps he honestly no longer believed that he was capable of solving problems and humbly chose to leave. Perhaps he felt other pressures, which we will probably never know. But in any case, it strikes me as the decision of a responsible and humble person. And what did he try to convey to the faithful from his retreat? Well, what he wrote in the letter, that the situation is serious and we must pray to the only Lord of history. Yarrow. Since you are talking about the end of an epoch, what are the characteristics of the new epoch? How is it different? Palco. I will only say what everyone sees anyway, that the epoch begins with enormous tension in the political and spiritual spheres. Therefore, there is considerable uncertainty. In connection with Benedict's legacy for Christians, but not only for them, 4 principles also come to mind as we enter this epoch. The first is that there are things you can never back down on, and trying to avoid fighting for them is a grave mistake. In Slovak politics, I witnessed this very mistake of many Christians. The second is that one must examine one's motives and humbly start from oneself, not immediately think of one's neighbor as the culprit. And the third? Benedict XVI emphasized so many times that faith and reason complement each other. You also have to stick to your mind. And finally, you need to pray for strong shepherds who can defend the Church from the power of evil. Again, Benedict XVI's words from 2015. As one sees the power of the Antichrist spreading, one can only pray that the Lord will give us mighty shepherds to defend His Church against the power of evil in this hour of need. It is pretty amazing that a holy pope could see the Antichrist coming from the signs of the times. From this angle, his decision to quit looks different. Maybe he thought that because he was sick and weak, he couldn't lead the Church through the coming end of the world. But Benedict has said before that our time is the time of the Antichrist. Peter Seewald's biography of Benedict is the best one out there. In it, he quotes Pope Ratzinger as saying, "The true threat for the Church, and thus for the Petrine service, does not come from this sort of episode. It comes instead from the universal dictatorship of apparently humanistic ideologies. Anyone who contradicts this dictatorship is excluded from the basic consensus of society. 100 years ago, anyone would have thought it absurd to speak of homosexual matrimony. Today, those who oppose it are socially excommunicated. The same holds true for abortion and the production of human beings in the laboratory. Modern society intends to formulate an anti-Christian creed. Whoever contests it is punished with social excommunication. Being afraid of this spiritual power of the Antichrist is all too natural, and what is truly needed is that the prayers of entire dioceses and of the world church come to the rescue to resist it. The leak of Benedict XVI's private letter has sent shockwaves across the Catholic Church, as well as throughout the wider world. Many people are curious about the reaction that the Church will have to this shocking revelation. The lions really are on their way. We're getting a clearer picture of why Pope Benedict XVI gave his secretary, Archbishop Ganswein, permission to publicly support the Benedict option in 2018. The mission was not to establish connections with the outside world. Rather, it sought to reinvigorate the faith from within. This method is known as the Benedict option. It is not to withdraw from the world, but rather to strengthen the Church's defenses in the hearts and minds of every professed Christian, so that we may be able to withstand the tribulations that are to come and continue to be loyal. The strategy that Pope Benedict took, which was to strengthen a weakened Church from the inside, is diametrically opposed to the approach that Pope Francis has taken, which is to, in his phrase, go to the fringes. Pope Benedict's approach was to strengthen a weakened Church from within. One thing is abundantly obvious as we approach the conclusion of our investigation into the secret letter sent by Pope Benedict XVI. The warning of the appearance of the Antichrist is a profound and urgent call to action for all believers. Whether you are a member of the Catholic Church or another faith, the content of the letter serves as a reminder of the necessity to strengthen our faith, pray with greater fervor, and get ready for what is to come. We have high hopes that this video has enlightened you on this significant progression and motivated you to reflect on your own spiritual journey with a more in-depth manner. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.